AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor, Buddy Ray, and Andrew Kosiski.
Good morning, race fans. Hope you are enjoying your beautiful, and I mean absolutely beautiful, Sunday morning.
Oh, you can't beat this.
Enjoy it while you can. I hate to be the guy that ends on the Debbie Downer, but I just looked at the 10-day weather forecast, and get your yard work done today and tomorrow. Let's just put it that way.
Don't put the snow shovels away yet.
I did. Twice now I put the snow shovels away, and I winterized my snowblower. So, Mother Nature, I'm done. I'm done. You are done with the snow as far as I'm concerned. And yesterday I waxed my truck. I don't wax my truck and then have 40-degree weather. Mother Nature and I are going to have a little bit of a discussion because I'm sick and tired of this stuff. 78 for a high today. But let's talk about what we've got coming up in the show. We're going to try something very new and unique.
Yeah.
And I'm a little worried about this. We're going to take your phone calls. 402-573-0590. Give us a call and talk about anything you want to talk about today. If it be the debut of the 305 Race Saver engines at Eagle Raceway last night, which, Bud, you were there. You raced, then you watched the 305s, and we'll break all that down in turn two.
Yep, turn two.
We're going to talk about what happened at Kansas, the penalties that ensued, and then what happened at Richmond in turn one. In turn three, we're going to have a conversation with Brady Bacon, who is going to be at Eagle Raceway this coming weekend for the Rumble in the Bull Ring.
Rumble in the Bull Ring, hauling the bacon.
The USAC Wingless Series. What size engines those guys run, by the way? Do you know? Is it 410s?
I believe it might be 410.
I think he mentioned the 410s when we sat down and talked.
Bigger than what I got.
Yeah. Not what I'm running in my Ranger, definitely. And then turn four is going to be kind of up in the air. We're going to try to take some phone calls from you and just have discussions. But anytime today you want to have a conversation as far as what you saw the week of racing, if you want to chime in on the 305s, maybe you were there at Eagle last night and give your opinion on it. If you want to talk about the penalties and the severe penalties that were levied against Joe Gibbs Racing and not necessarily against Toyota, give us a call, 402-573-0590. And without further ado, let's talk about what happened at Kansas. Matt Kenseth had an absolutely dominant car. The guy was wound for sound, and no one was going to catch him. Led 163 laps of the 267, and it wasn't just that he had a second lead. He was constantly putting time on the field, constantly distancing himself, and doing a fantastic job of getting out there in the clean air. Restarts, he had the lead coming out of turn two, and nobody was going to catch him, and that just seemed to be his day all day long. Another great day for Casey Kane and Jimmy Johnson as they finish second and third. Martin Truex Jr. finishes fourth. Clint Boyer, hometown boy, finishes fifth. Brad Keselowski sixth. Jamie McMurray finishes seventh. Eric Almirola eighth. There's another top 10 finish for Eric Almirola. Mark Martin ninth, and Paul Menard, a good finish for the 27 team. They get themselves a top 10 finish.
You notice Eric Almirola has just kind of come out of nowhere this year?
He is doing consistently better than normal, which is very good to hear, very excited to hear for that team. To see that 43 back up front and consistently running. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, you get yourself consistent top 15s, then you get yourself consistent top 10s.
Baby steps.
You start getting yourself consistent top 5s, and once in a while, you're going to pop off a surprising win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just Dad and I, we talk an awful lot, any race car driver wants to go to the track with a win, but we always have a saying, let's just hope for a top 10. Anything beyond 9th and forward, that's pretty much, bonus right there. So
exactly. After the race, as is always done by NASCAR inspections, winner and second place, their cars are taken for inspection after the race each week. And then there is a random third car that is selected. It just so happened to be that when they took Matt Kenseth's car and they did post-race inspection, they took the engine back to Concord, North Carolina, and on Monday and Tuesday ran further inspections on it. They randomly pulled parts off of that engine, completely randomly pulled parts. They just so happened to pull one connecting rod that was 2.7 grams light. 2.7 grams light, which is 3 sheets of paper worth of weight. An 8 by 11.5 sheet of paper. According to the NASCAR rules, the connecting rod cannot be less than 525 grams. So it was 523.3. Excuse me, 522.3. So severe penalties were levied against the 20
Severe is an understatement.
All week long, there has been discussions of, is this an advantage or a disadvantage? We talked to several engine designers, and in turn 2, I apologize because I just realized that we talked with an engine designer. We got a good recording and a good conversation about it, which I need to get put into the system. Nothing like being unprepared. And basically, the conversation we had is, no, it doesn't help the engine at all. They can't really tell if it would hurt the engine. Obviously, it didn't because Matt Kenseth's running 9,000 RPMs all around Kansas, high RPMs, high speeds, and he didn't blow an engine.
Well, I don't think 2.7 grams is enough to cause detrimental damage to the motor. Now, had all 8 connecting rods been 2.7 grams underweight, then you would essentially have a balanced motor. But when you have all of your connecting rods at 525 grams and you got that one at 2.7 grams underweight, you essentially have an unbalanced motor, and even in NASCAR, that's not good at all.
The penalties that ensued: car owner Joe Gibbs lost 50 championship car owner points and was taken the first place finish from Kansas Speedway away. He was, and his NASCAR owner's license was suspended. Now, this just means he's able to go to the track. Obviously, we saw him at Richmond last night. He's able to go to the races for the rest of the season, but he cannot collect championship owner points for the 20 car for 6-point paying races. So that basically means he's not going to win the championship with the 20 team. That's gone. Matt Kenseth is fined 50 championship driver points. Crew chief Jason Ratcliffe fined $200,000, suspended from NASCAR for 6-point paying races, which will include the 7th All-Star race coming up, and is placed on probation until December 31st. The unfortunate thing is that those 3 guys, Matt Kenseth, Joe Gibbs, and Jason Ratcliffe, and anybody over at Joe Gibbs Racing had absolutely nothing to do with that connecting rod.
You know, and I thought about this all week, Dan, and I understand why we need rules and we need regulations set in place. I understand that if the rule states the connecting rod's got to be 525 grams and it's not 525, then yes, you've broken a rule. But the only thing I have to say here is, come on, NASCAR, let's use some common sense. When you know the guys have nothing to do with the motor, they're not building the motor, and they're just, they have a batch of motors coming over from TRD. How can you honestly blame them for that?
Right.
That is seriously like you going out and buying your Ranger and the federal government going, oh, Dan, we're going to fine you $3,000 because your catalytic converter's not right.
Exactly.
And it's not right.
The tough thing is that TRD are the only ones outside of a racing shop that builds engines for a racing shop. Hendrick obviously builds engines for all Chevys. So if NASCAR was to say, okay, we're going to find TRD, then Hendrick could then start sprucing up their motors and then turning over, and when they get fined saying, hey, it was our engine department, it wasn't the race team, fine our engine department. So I think NASCAR, again, they have to go broad with this. And so
are you saying NASCAR did the right thing? Because TRD publicly came out and stated that it was their mistake. It was an oversight. And I'm sitting here going, oversight.
I don't. But I think NASCAR has to fine based on the overall picture of it all, because they can't get into did Joe Gibbs Racing know this? Did TRD get orders to do this? They just have to say, you know what? You're the captain of the ship, Joe Gibbs. You're the one that's going to go down for this. Okay? That's the way it's going to be. Plain and simple, and they're getting the message loud and clear. I got our first phone call of the year. Jim on line 1. Jim, you wanted to talk about Toyota penalties.
Yeah, I thought I'm with you. I thought it was a little bit excessive of a penalty. I can see him being penalized, because that car was so dominant. I think that's why they looked into it.
Do you think they're obviously going to be hearing their appeal in the next week or two? Do you think maybe NASCAR might bring that appeal down, bring the penalties down a little bit? Do you think they should?
I think they should, but I don't think you rarely see NASCAR bring a penalty down.
Unless you're Hendrick Motorsports in the 48 team.
Jim Johnson.
Uh-oh, black helicopters are flying around all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Jim, thanks so much for your phone call. We appreciate you calling in. 402-573-0590, 402-573-0590. That's the phone number to call if you want to weigh in on the penalties for the 20 team for Joe Gibbs Racing. Also this week, NASCAR is going to hear the appeal for the 2 team and the 22 team for the rear end housing penalties at Texas Motor Speedway. I don't foresee that being overturned either.
I see the penalties for those guys sticking before I do the TRD, and here's why. When these guys have these rear ends, I believe it was a part in the housing or a part of the housing, if I remember right.
We understand it was the mounting of the housing.
The mounting. Well, the mounting is done at the race shop. Right. It's not like the cars come to them, as a roller. These guys are mounting the rear ends. So therefore, it puts that somebody in the shop had to mount it incorrectly.
That is a Penske onus. That is on Penske, exactly.
Yes. And I agree with that. But the TRD, it's got me, pretty riled up. Kenseth and the boys over there at Joe Gibbs they're getting the wrong end of the deal here, and I believe it's NASCAR just trying to flex their muscle solely because, like Jim said, he had a dominant car.
Yeah, and I do disagree with Jim a little bit. It's always that the winning engine is confiscated. That's the way it always goes. Second place is always taken. Their cars are always confiscated by NASCAR and then post-race inspected more thoroughly. And then there is a third random car that is selected. And this week, with Kenseth winning that race. So it is very odd. You think of all of the 8 connecting rods that they could have taken, they took that one. Now, who's to say any of the other ones weren't off weight also? But still, the onus is on Toyota, but Toyota's really not getting penalized for this at all. I believe they got they got 6 manufacturer points taken away from their championship. But that was it for Toyota. You got to wonder if this is just another strain on the Toyota Joe Gibbs Racing relationship.
I would think it would be.
Because this is... Listen, you look at that, you go, okay, he got fined 50 points. They're going to make that back up. Matt Kenseth is still going to make the championship. That win at Kansas, it goes towards his overall record, but he can't use that win to get into the chase. Last year we saw Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane both use their 2 wins to get into the chase. If Matt Kenseth has Kansas and I can't remember the race he won earlier in the year off the top of my head, but he needs to use that Kansas win to get into the chase. He can't. He's out of the chase. If he's within the 10 points and he qualifies off of points, he can't use that Kansas as bonus points when the points reset. He also can't use that pole qualifying to get into the Sprint Unlimited. On top of all of that, he's out of contingency awards. And the contingency awards are, let's go back in the day when Lowe's was the title sponsor of of Charlotte Motor Speedway. And if the 48 team won, they got extra money because they won at Lowe's, at the Lowe's track. And that's contingency contracts. And because of these penalties in 2014, the 20 team cannot get paid out any contingency money, which it isn't a lot, but in this kind of economy, when these teams are struggling for sponsorship, every single dollar counts. This is an astronomical penalty to go against the 20 team, and
it just don't make sense to me.
I don't agree. I mean, I understand NASCAR's thinking because we've gone through this. I'm the benefit of the doubt kind of a guy. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to see it from all angles. I see NASCAR they have to rule in this way because of all of the other engine departments, other engine manufacturers. They're within a race team. Before Joe Gibbs Racing made their engines, and if this was a Joe Gibbs Racing internal thing, nobody would be having any question about it. The tough thing is that this was a Toyota Racing Development issue, and that it folded over into it's the overseas manufacturer that makes this connecting rod sent them one that was too heavy. And then it was
I don't think
Toyota
it's an
Racing
overseas
development.
manufacturer, though. I believe they're built out of California.
Yes, but where the connecting rods are made are overseas.
Okay.
And then it was an oversight by TRD for not checking those parts to make sure the weight was right. But again, it's 2.7 grams. They can't rule speculatively if it helps or hurts an engine. They just simply have to say, you know what? You've got an illegal part in your engine, and there's the Holy Trinity. You don't mess with the engines, you don't mess with the fuel, and you don't mess with the tires. And NASCAR really put their foot down both with the 2 and the 22 on modifications to the rear end housing, and they put their foot down on the 20. And
the modifications to the rear end housing, like I said, that's done right there at the shop.
Yeah.
I
think you've got a really good point. I think that's the argument that Joe Gibbs Racing is going to go in during their appeal process and say, listen, we had nothing to do with this engine. You can't expect us to get a fully built engine from Toyota,
completely tear it down,
break it down, and weigh everything and make sure everything's right. We stuck it on a dyno. It was within correct parameters. We put it in the car and ran.
Didn't you say after the Richmond race or before the Richmond race that there was 3 more engines that TRD wanted to look at?
They pulled 3 new engines. Just saw this on the wires this morning that they have recalled 3 engines from Michael Waltrip Racing. All 3 engines were marked for the 15 car of Clint Boyer. They took every connecting rod out of our inventory and removed anything that was too close for comfort, was a statement from Michael Waltrip Racing. So it looks like TRD is just playing it safe.
Oh, yeah.
They took everything just to be safe.
Although it does concern me, because we're not just talking 2 or 3 motors per team here. We're talking probably a couple dozen motors per team here.
Yeah.
It does concern me that they're pulling their connecting rods now.
Well, that was where the issue was.
They're pulling them all. Well, yeah, that's what the issue is, but they're pulling them all now, like you say, to play it safe. So you mean to tell me if Dale Jr. had a connecting rod that came under the minimum weight rule, they're going to go through all the Hendrick motors?
I would to be safe. Absolutely, I would to be safe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if you're Toyota. You got some – if this happens again, you're going to start losing contracts.
Yeah, you're going to start losing contracts. But I think they are, giving these motors – or not giving them away for free, but they're selling these motors in lots and batches and not as a whole. It's not like they're sending – 500 engines out there. I could see, 50, 60, 70 engines, but...
Well, they got to set them out far enough in advance so that they can get set in the cars. I mean, I believe they're 6 races ahead when building cars. 6 to 7 races ahead. Let's talk about what happened last night at Richmond. Pretty good race. And we talked about one of the penalties being Matt Kenseth cannot use his pole qualifying at Kansas to qualify for the Sprint Unlimited. Well, now he gets to use it again because he got the pole for Richmond. Great race for Matt Kenseth. Had a pretty good car, but when the track cooled off, his car seemed to kind of go away, and him and Jason Ratcliffe could not get caught back up. Great battle at the end. We saw some cautions breeding cautions, some short track Saturday night tempers, and in the end, Kevin Harvick comes home with the victory, something that he has been fighting to have a good finish all season long since he was so dominant in those Sprint Unlimiteds and looked like he was going to have a great season. Got wrecked out. Thank you, by the way, Kevin Harvick, for finishing 41st and ruining my points race.
When was the last time he had won a race?
It's been a while. I do not know.
Did he win one last year?
Yeah, yes, he did. He won Homestead last year.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah,
because that was the whole weekend that him leaving Richard Childress Racing broke out. But Harvick gets the win. Clint Boyer comes home second. Joey Logano gets himself a 3rd place finish. And you're sitting down, right? Okay, you're sitting down. Juan Pablo Montoya finishes 4th. Again, Jeff Burton finishes 5th, Carl Edwards 6th, Matt Kenseth 7th, Eric Almirola, there's Eric again, finishing 8th, Kurt Busch.
Where has he come from this year?
Eric or Kurt?
Eric.
I don't know. They've like we just said, they've got their stuff right over there at Richard Petty Enterprises. Kurt Busch finishes 9th, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets himself a top 10 finish. Give the attaboys to Kurt Busch and Juan Pablo Montoya. Those guys not only had good cars, they were up front all day long, all night long, racing hard for the win, and very, very good to see those guys get themselves a win.
Do you have any speculation as to what's propelling Eric Almirola to do as good as he had? I mean, a year or two ago, we'd be like, Eric who?
Yeah.
And now we're like,
Yeah.
Eric Almirola, man, he's a top 10 guy. Kurt Busch.
I think he's just finally getting some good seat time. He's got some experience. It takes a couple of years. Everyone expects Danica Patrick to be out there, or not expects, but is thinking that Danica Patrick's going to be out there winning races. She's going to run in the 30s for this year. She's going to probably run in the 20s next year, and then she'll start really competing because it takes a lot of time to go to these 20 different tracks on the circuit and really get a feel for it. You start to see it at the end of the races where she starts to kind of get her line and get things figured out. Well, now they're getting their book in order. This is the result for Eric Almirola.
Kurt Busch, he's looking...
Man.
Wow.
And I was so proud of that team because you see those underfunded teams, they come onto pit road during cautions to get 4 fresh and 2 cans of Sunoco, and they have a 14-second pit stop. Oh, no, they're up there having 12-second flat stops, 11.5-second stops. They were absolutely getting him out and dominant, and he did awesome.
Anybody who thinks he's not doing that good, look who finished behind him. Junior, Gordon, Johnson,
right.
Newman. I mean, wow.
Right. And Tony Stewart was up there again. We've been waiting for him to have a good race, but went for pit strategy. Took 2 tires for the green, white checker and just didn't have the grip to stay up there. Got shuffled out of the line by Kurt Busch, and then there was a little bit of a tussle afterwards. Took a long turn one. We're going to go over to turn 2 here in a second, and we're going to get to Dave in Council Bluffs. Has a question for Buddy and wants to talk about some dirt track racing. So we're going to talk about the dirt track racing so far in turn 2. This is the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308-383-9609, 308-383-9609.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 200 people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team meetings, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. On to turn 2, where we're going to talk about dirt track racing. And before we do that, let's talk to Dave on line 1 in Council Bluffs. Dave, thanks so much for holding. We appreciate your time. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Dan, I watch Eagle Raceway quite a bit, and my question is, everybody's talking up the claim engines and the crate engines. I've seen the crate engines dominate the claim motors and vice versa. So from a driver's perspective, what's the pros and cons, and what's the difference between them?
Between the claim and the crates is what you're specifically asking, right?
Right.
With the claimers, it's just what it is. It's a claim engine. After any feature, if you're in a claimer class such as a hobby stock, I believe a stock car's got a claim. I'm not for sure on that in the IMCA, but I do know an IMCA hobby stock, IMCA sport mod, IMCA mod. On those claimer motors, you can claim those for about $500, maybe a little bit more on the IMCA A mods. Top 4 in the feature. If you're on the lead lap, anybody on the lead lap, 5th on back, can claim any of the top 4 on the crate engines. We can't claim those. I know from my experience in the sport mod division in IMCA and NASCAR and the B mods, with the crate engines, that's a 602 9-to-1 sealed motor. It's a spec motor. We run 4-barrel carburetor. The claim runs a 2-barrel carburetor on those. And there's, a price difference. It's about a wash, but I have seen one or the other, pretty much kick the other's butt on the track quite a bit. I run the crate motor, and I absolutely love them just from a cost standpoint and for the reliability out of them.
Does that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, actually, I got part 2 to that. This probably for you, Dan. Do you think NASCAR should do the claim rule on engines?
I'm not a fan of the claim. Not at all. I don't think so. And Buddy and I have had this conversation. There are rules that work for dirt track, and there are rules that work for
That's actually
for asphalt.
very true.
And you could swap some things, but you can't swap everything. And we're learning some of that with the dirt track race that's coming up at Eldora for the trucks. There's some things that you can use, and there's some things you can't. I don't think claiming motors would be one of them.
One of the reasons why we have the claim rule in a lot of the tracks, if not most of the tracks nationwide, Dan, is the fact that, a lot of these sanctioning bodies and tracks don't want to see the working collar 40-hour week guy, lose all of his money in a motor. So what they do is they say, the curb cost, don't build a $20,000 motor, only build a $2,000 motor, but your $2,000 motor can be claimed for $500-$600. Now, there's no way in today's world that you can honestly build a good longevity reliable motor for a couple $1,000s anymore. A set of heads can run that much on a claimer.
Do they need to raise the price of the claim?
I think they need to raise the price of the claim or keep the price of the claim where it's at now. And I believe in the sport mods it's $550. Keep it at $550, but exchange motors. On the crate motor, if you don't on the crate motor, do a swap for a crate or something like that, so
that the guy who got claimed isn't out everything.
Right, because there's guys in the A mods I know. I'm not going to mention names, but there's guys in the A mods that literally have a $15,000 motor. Well, you can claim that motor for $600.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
It don't sound right.
It's just like the idea of insurance agencies. When everything is above board, it's a flawless system. Problem is that people are money hungry and grubby, and that nothing stops you, buddy, from putting $15,000 into a beautiful engine. You go and beat me 2 weeks. I go and buy some cheap $1,000 engine that I know is crap. I run it that night. I claim your motor, and all of a sudden, I've got myself a $15,000 engine for $600.
Yep.
And I'm way ahead because now I can go out there and beat you, and you're completely out of an engine.
But I can claim you back.
Does that motor? You can actually reclaim it. Does that $550? Oh, but you have to race that night, right?
You have to race, yeah.
Okay.
And I have to finish on the lead lap.
So then I could just claim your motor and just never race against you, and it's mine.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's the tough thing, and I would believe those NASCAR boys to do that. Dave, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it does. Thank you, gentlemen. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, you too. We appreciate your time. 402-573-0590. That's the number to call in if you got questions for Buddy or myself on dirt track, NASCAR, or the weather, maybe whatever you want to talk about. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about it.
We ought to dedicate a turn, too, to this 70 and 80-degree weather because God knows when we're going to see it again.
Well, the week following looks like it's good. It's Mother Nature's being a bit moody right now, which is typical in the Midwest. It's pretty typical. 402-573-0590. Those are the numbers to call. Give us a call if you got a question. Buddy, let's talk about your weekly debut. Well, I guess it wasn't a weekly debut. You raced Friday night.
It was. Yeah, well, Friday and Saturday, both were weekly shows.
Right. But your regular weekly is going to be Denison and Eagle, correct?
Yep.
All right. And so you raced Friday night at their weekly opener. How did that go?
Well, I raced
I-80.
I-80's weekly opener. Great track. Wow. For the first time in a number of years, and I-80's never had a junk track, I believe, on a weekly opening night. But their opening night, the track was actually really, really, really good. Great car count. I think we seen B features in the B mods. We've seen B features in the A mods. The A mods, man, we had some heavy hitters. We had Dylan Smith, Jesse Sobbing, Josh Most. For us, in the number 25 Joe's Karting B mod, we looked pretty good in the hot laps in the heat race. We didn't look so good. And then
that's the second time you've done that at I-80.
Yeah.
During it the Bug Eater Bash? Or no, it was the Spring Meltdown. That
and then
you did the same thing. You finished, I think, third during your heat. Had
second in the heat.
And had a really good starting position, but set anchor? I don't know.
At the spring meltdown, yeah, you'd think I threw an anchor and tied it to the wall there at ID, but no, we finished 16th at spring meltdown. We knew what our problem was there. And so Friday night, I told the guys, I was like, well, we're going to change these shocks out, and we did that, and we started one lap down, 21st, finished 7th.
Nice. Much better.
Yeah.
And what about last night? Where'd you finish? Friday night.
Friday night we started 21st, finished 7th.
Okay. I thought you were talking
about
that. Okay.
Now, last night, Eagle Raceway, boy, I see the internet boards lighting up on this one. Great car count. Track started rutting up pretty good, but, I mean, when you're talking 170, 180 cars on the opening night, there's not much you can do about it. It was dry, slick. Number one thing, 2 races that stuck out to me. The hobby stock feature, I think, was by far the best race of the night. I think out of 20 cars, I want to say 15 or 17 finished, 3 and 4 wide on the dry slick. The Race Saver sprint cars, boy, was that the topic of the pits.
Explain that. People excited, people questioning it, a little of everything?
A little of everything. I heard a few complaints because, oh, my God, it's not a 360 sprint car. The fact is, on these sprint cars at Eagle, you don't need a 140-mile-an-hour sprint car. Not that they're doing 140, but we don't need the speeds that the 360s are doing just to put on a good race. These Race Saver sprint cars were getting all around the track pretty decent. The one guy from Sioux City who won last night, he was just hauling the mail. But we had a really good run for second through fourth, second through fifth, I believe. Shaylee Bade, she came out in 5th place. Matt Richards, he was looking pretty decent. I believe he left the feature early on. And I think, I want to say 9, 10 sprint cars finished the feature. But before people started knocking those, 20 sport mods started the feature. 9 finished. So, I mean, 11 cars dropped out. But the sprint cars were actually not bad, and the racing was really, really close. All in all, I thought it was a win-win, and the crowd stayed for almost all of it, too.
How'd our very own Miss 305 do?
Miss 305?
Shaylee.
Oh, 5th.
5th?
I believe it. Yeah, she was top 5 last night and ran real good.
If you've got a question for us, give us a call, 402-573-0590. Matt in Omaha, you got a question, a dirt track question for Bud.
Yeah, from a driver's perspective, what is the difference between a 305 and a 360 sprint?
That's a good question, and a lot of people get confused by this. It sounds exactly like it is. A 360 engine is just that, a 360 cubic inch engine. 305 engine, it is what it is. It's a 305 cubic inch engine.
Do you know the horsepower difference?
About that much. I got my arms spread out about 5 foot.
They can't see you on radio.
I believe some of these 360 sprint car motors, when you start getting into your Roush Yates motors, now don't quote me on this because I'm not a 360 driver, but I've heard somewhere in the 800 horsepower range on some of the top of the line motors, whereas the 305 motors, you're going to be looking at, I want to say 420 horsepower.
Let's see. I got 700 horsepower for the 305s. I'm sorry for the 360s. Can't seem to find anything on the 305s. I remember when we talked to
Roger Hayden, he's building a lot of them.
Yeah, and the biggest reason why they made the switch was cost effectiveness. I mean, it's considerably cheaper to have a 305.
There's a local 360 driver who reportedly, now I've never seen receipts or paperwork, but his motor was right around that 50,000 altogether. Yeah. Well, you can buy one of these Race Saver sprint cars out at Eagle and go racing and win a feature with a $13,000 to $15,000 turnkey car.
And I just found the 305s should be able to hit 500 horsepower.
Yeah, but I don't.
700 horsepower to 500 horsepower.
They should. Well, I don't know about that because I know some of the top dogs, I don't think are making 500. I think they're pushing 450, 475 is what I was told.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yes,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Appreciate your
Yes,
call.
sir.
Thank
Yep,
you.
have a
Thanks.
good day.
You too. 402-573-0590. 402-305-573-0590.
The heat wave is melting your brain.
It's a difficult day. Give us a call if you got a question on anything for dirt tracking, NASCAR, or anything related you'd like to talk about for racing. 402-573-0590.
Can I ask you a question?
No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, seeing as how
Keep it quick, though. Let's not have one of your Bud questions. We got to get to Brady Bacon.
with NASCAR in general, how long do you think we need to start, or how soon do these drivers start worrying about the chase?
Tony Stewart, right now. Right now. Because he not only is, well, after last night's race, he is 22nd in points. Not only is he 22nd, he doesn't have 2 wins to get himself into the bonus, into the bubble, and he's certainly not showing any signs of finishing in the top 10 anytime soon. Now, last night was a hint of what maybe they're getting it turned around, but frankly, short tracks, if you can stay on the lead lap and you can survive, you're going to get yourself a good top 15 finish. And then at Talladega, the super speedways, which Talladega we go to next Sunday, that's the same thing. I think Talladega and short tracks are the same. It's where you run for the speedways, for the Kansas, the Michigans, the Texas, and they show no signs of even being close with those tracks. And that's your bread and butter.
Eric Amarola, you think he's a chase contender this year?
He's sitting 11th in the points. I don't know.
Consistency.
I need to see consistency out of him. He's doing very well. I'm not saying he's not. He had a good end of the season last year. They've gotten off to a really good start this year. I think he's going to be a bubble. If he gets himself a win or two, yeah, I'll say yes, he's going to make it. Let's take a quick break. We're going to head over and talk to Brady Bacon in turn 2, the USAC wingless driver that's going to be down at Eagle Raceway for the Rumble in the Bull Ring. It's coming up next on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308-383-9609, 308-383-9609.
It's time to check out what all the dirt drivers already know. Joe's Karting is the Metro's best place to go for kart racing, where the only speed restriction is how good you are, reaching up to 45 miles per hour while twisting and turning through a 25,000 square foot building. Joe's Karting is sure to raise your heart rate. It's time to find out how fast your knuckles will turn white. Located in Council Bluffs, just north of Bass Pro and next to AMC Theaters. Online at joeskarting.com. Get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Time to grab another tear off and make your move. We're headed into turn 3 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. We're about to talk with Brady Bacon of BradyBaconRacing.com, who's going to make his way to Eagle Raceway for the Rumble in the Bull Ring this Saturday night. You can get your tickets online, EagleRaceway.com. We want to say thanks to Kaziski Auto Parts for supporting the Front Stretch and sponsoring the interview segment, and doing everything they can to help us keep the word out there about dirt racing. Online at Kaziski.com. You can also become a fan of theirs on Facebook. Give them a call, 731-4592. Having a conversation with Brady Bacon, and he is joining us now on the Front Stretch. Brady, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us. How you doing?
Doing good. Just had a little cold and rainy day here in Indiana, but it's not quite as nice here as it is in Oklahoma, but we'll have to live with it. I'll take this when it's 108 in Oklahoma, and it'll only be about 90 degrees here. So
yeah.
Well, have you been hauling the bacon out there in Indiana?
Well, we've been getting rained out a lot, so we ran a handful of times since I moved up here.
Just for the record,
not near enough.
Just for the record, it took Bud 45 seconds to use a bacon pun.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard them all.
Yeah, I've heard them all, sizzling and cooking and all that.
Well, Brady, talk a little bit about your start in racing. When exactly did you sit down in your first car for competition, and what kind of a car was it?
I started racing when I was 5 years old, and it's a quarter midget, which is kind of like a go-kart but with suspension on it. It's just like a miniature sprint car, basically.
How old are you now?
I moved up. I'm 23.
Boy, you look like you're 16 in your website.
That's real nice.
Yeah.
Well, no, he looks young. He's a good-looking young guy.
Now he's hitting on you.
Everyone always thought I was younger than I am now. People involved in racing are used to seeing my name for so long. They assume I'm actually older just from reading my name.
So you've been racing since you were 16 in quarter midgets. How long did you race a quarter midget?
So I've been racing since I was 5 in quarter midgets, and I started racing professionally sprint cars and midgets when I was 16.
Okay.
And I raced mini sprints and micros and stuff up until the time I was 15. I started racing a little bit of sprint car stuff when I was 15, and then been racing professionally since I was 16. I got signed with Chip Ganassi Racing, the NASCAR team, when I was 16, and ran the remainder of the USAC series that year. And then I drove for Casey Kane in 2007 and 2008 in the full USAC National Midget and Sprint Car Series. And then the past few years, 2009, 10, 11, and 12, I've been racing winged sprint cars, mostly 360 stuff in the ASCS
Brady,
National Series.
When you're 15 or 16 years old and you're driving for Chip Ganassi or Casey Kane, how does a 15, 16-year-old balance their everyday life with driving for somebody of that stature?
Well, you don't really have a everyday life in the eyes of most people. It's a unique life, traveling a lot. I actually skipped a year of high school, went from a freshman to a junior, and then my senior year I actually missed 50 days of school. So.
And you still graduated valedictorian.
Yeah, still graduated valedictorian. I was lucky that schoolwork came easier to me than when it comes to some people, so I was able to keep up while doing my homework and stuff on the road. So it's different, but racing has been an important part of my life forever. My dad raced and my grandfather raced, so it was just it was normal life to me. So just it's a little just different from most people.
Currently sitting in the top 5 in points for the USAC Sprint Car Championship. How would you grade your season so far?
Probably about a B. We've had I think the performance of the car and the crew and everything has been an A, but unfortunately we've had some circumstances that have kept us, out of victory lane and off the podium a couple times. We've usually had to start in the back of the feature and have to work our way up, which makes it a little more difficult. We've had to qualify late usually, and it just has hurt us a little bit in our qualifying efforts and have made us start in the back. We've always made our way up to the front and finished towards the front every night, but I wish we would have got some chances to start close to the front, in victory lane already, and then have a couple other better finishes. But we'll take it, and definitely not out of the hunt for sure. We've been strong every night, and we've made some improvements already throughout the year. So definitely excited about the race that's to come.
Have you ever raced Eagle before?
Yeah, I raced actually the last time I was at Eagle, which was last year for the Eagle Nationals, the 360 National Touring Series race there. I won both nights. The last time I was there, I won the last 2 nights. So, and I ran strong there the past several years that I ran there. So, feeling really good about it. This time it'll be without the wing and with a 410, which is a little different. But I think I have an advantage since I ran that track more than most of these guys.
So you're saying I need to call my bookie now?
Well, you never know what can happen, but I like that track a lot, and we should be really good there.
I don't want to hear that. I want to hear we're going to win. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, well, you can never say that. That's how you jinx yourself.
Yeah.
In your opinion, can you give us your thoughts on driving wing versus wingless?
Yeah, it's kind of the way I describe it is a wing car is easier to drive, but it's harder to be really faster than everybody else. And then a non-wing car is harder to drive, but if you're a good driver, it's easier to be faster than everybody else. I think non-wing puts more in the driver's hands. They don't go quite as fast without the wings, but the racing's a lot closer, a lot more technical. You'll see 3 wide, 2, 3 wide all the time without the wings, whereas the wing cars can sometimes get a little single file without passing. But Eagles usually always races regardless if it's got wings or no wings, so that shouldn't be a problem there. But definitely some differences. It's a little easier to crash in a non-wing car because you don't have the wing to keep the car settled down. There are some differences, but I prefer, if I was a fan, I'd definitely prefer non-wing racing. But as a driver, I like both of them. They're both a challenge to each one.
The non-wing cars are definitely a lot of fun. Boy, you never know what's going to happen when you have a non-wing sprint car race. They're fun. Brady, at 23 years old, how hard is it to actually juggle being a race team owner now and a driver at the same time?
Well, this year is my first year in a couple years not racing for myself all the time. The last 2 years I've raced for myself full time on the ASCS national deal and running about 70, 80 races on cars that I work on and own myself. This year I'm kind of splitting it up. I'm running the USAC National Series for Hoffman Racing out of Cincinnati. So we'll race 40 races with them in USAC, and then I'll run my own car only about 30 times and mostly winning 410 races. So I get a little bit of a break this year, not having to work on this stuff all the time. But it's definitely a little nicer to do that. But I'm kind of getting a little bored right now because we haven't been racing very much.
Yeah, you guys got rained out just recently at Eldora. So what have you been doing to pass the time in between races?
Well, when Eldora rained out, I loaded my own car up and I went to the World of Outlaw race at Hobstock. So I've got more options than most people since I do run winged and non-winged. Most people run one or the other. So, but a lot of times we just been sitting at home watching it rain if there's nothing to do. But I usually try to find something to do and chase a race down somewhere within a reasonable distance. But I've only been able to get about one race a weekend right now.
I know
so
the last
looking forward to the weather clearing up so we can get 2 or 3 nights of racing in a week.
Yeah, I know here in the last 2 weeks, a lot of the racetracks around here, we've all rained out, and we're having like some serious racing withdrawals here.
It's the same everywhere, I think.
Needless to say, Mother Nature is not friends with a lot of race car drivers in the United States, period.
Not right now.
Yeah, no, it's ramen noodle time of the year right now. But I'm looking forward to the steak time of the year.
Yeah. In 2013, obviously you're running for the USAC championship. Are you going to be racing anything for World of Outlaw championships? Are you trying to mix in another type of championship, or are you just focusing on USAC?
No, you can't really run for more than one championship because of the races overlap themselves. So you kind of have to pick one that you're going to run for the championship, and then, just pick and choose the other one. So I'm going to run about 10 to 15 World of Outlaw races, and then I'll run about 10 to 15 All-Star races up in Ohio and Indiana and stuff. And then I'll run about 10 or 15 USAC midget races as well. So and we're going to run the 360 Nationals at Knoxville and the 410 Nationals at Knoxville. So right now I have a little over 100 races on my schedule.
With 100 races on your schedule, Brady, is there any track in the U.S. that when you know you're getting ready to go to that track, your blood's pumping just a little bit harder and you're just ready to get it on?
Well, from my results at Eagle last year, Eagle's one of the ones I'm getting excited for.
Well, we
always run well there.
What is it about Eagle that you like so much?
I don't know. We just found something in our wing car, then we really went well there. I mean, I think we won the second night by like 7 or 8 seconds last year, so that's a lot on that track. And so we just kind of, I felt like I had it figured out, and a lot of racing is just confidence. So if you're going in there feeling confident, that can make a difference, whether your car's going to be better than everybody else's or not. Your confidence level can make a difference.
Can you take that information you learned last year with your winged sprint car and transfer it this year to your wingless, or do you have to scrap everything and start from scratch?
Yeah, not really. You can't really take the stuff that I do on my wing car for non-wing, but you can just take your familiarity with the track and what it usually does and how it wears and what it's going to do. Eagle is usually always on the top, and I was able to get my wing car to work on the bottom better than everybody else. So just kind of have to keep that in mind and do the different changes maybe to keep up with the track conditions. And I'm a little more familiar than the rest of the USAC guys with what Eagle usually does.
Talking with Brady Bacon, who's going to be at Eagle Raceway this weekend for the Rumble in the Bull Ring as a part of the USAC Wingless Sprint Car Series. Brady, do you find time to follow NASCAR at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I've got friends that race NASCAR, obviously Casey Kane and people like that. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I race with. So follow it a little bit. I don't generally watch all the races and all the news shows and all that stuff, but I usually do obviously know who wins and keep track of who's running well and all that stuff. I actually keep track of the Nationwide Series more than I do the Cup Series because I got a couple friends that run that. And I keep up with that a little bit more.
I'm becoming a huge fan of the Nationwide Series. I think the talent level down there is just is amazing. Is there a driver in NASCAR, past or present, that you would compare your style to? Maybe you're kind of a give everybody room, kind of a Mark Martin nice guy, or are you more of an aggressive take with yours, Kyle Busch?
It's hard to compare a NASCAR style to a sprint car style because there's so the different styles of racing to start with. But I generally, the philosophy of to finish first, you first must finish. So I try not to crash a lot, which sets me apart from some people, but I generally find my way to the front without, having those 3 or 4 nights a year where you wad one up.
What is your future looking like? You mentioned you've been a developmental racer for Chip Ganassi. You've raced for Casey Kane. What's the next step for you?
My focus for the future is just to continue building my own race team, and eventually, I would eventually like to run the World of Outlaws full time. Is my goal. So I'm taking probably the next couple of years and going to run the USAC deal and take the chance to run for somebody else and kind of save up my resources where I can when I get a chance I can go full blast into the wing sprint car 410 deal, and I'll probably run the All-Star Series for a year or two, and then take a shot at the World of Outlaw Series. We've been competitive with them the past year that we've raced them, so I just want to make sure I have all the resources it takes to do it right.
All right, do you have any interest in making your way up into the NASCAR circuit, or you wanting to stick down into the dirt?
The scene over there has changed drastically since I was there. When I got signed, if you were under 18 and you won a race anywhere, somebody signed you.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if you don't have a big pocket full of money behind you, you can't really do anything. You basically have to set the world on fire, like a Kyle Larson has done in sprint cars, and they did some stuff to get a chance. You got to be a once in a lifetime driver to really catch the attention of those guys. And even then, if you don't get in the right situation down there, they can still make you look bad. If you get a team that's not got their stuff together, or you don't communicate well with them, it's hard to run well. So I'm not going to focus on trying to do that. I'm going to focus on stuff I can control, which is dirt sprint car racing, and I can do that.
Yeah.
With the help of marketing partners and sponsors. I can do that myself, so that's what my focus is going to be in my career.
I'm glad you mentioned Kyle Larson. When we were kind of doing a little bit of research, it kept coming up that you've had your fair share of finishing in front of him.
Yeah, I've raced a lot with him. He's a couple years younger than me, but kind of met him when I think he was about 14, and kind of kept an eye on him since then. In the past couple of years, we've raced together a lot. But he's one of those guys that the door didn't open for him. He knocked the door down because he's won so many races, and he's an incredible driver, and everyone should keep an eye on him because he's probably the best you'll see in the next couple decades.
For a lot of the drivers out there that follow the guys like you in the World of Outlaws and the USAC series, especially the younger men and women coming up through the sport, what kind of advice would you give for those kind of drivers?
Keep as much in your own hands as possible. You should know how to work on your own car to be able to do as many things as possible on your own, so you don't have to depend on people to do it for you. That was always something that my parents taught me. When we were racing micros, my dad would say, "Hey, if you don't go work on that car, it ain't going to get done." He kind of taught me to do it myself, and obviously you need help from people and sponsors and stuff, but you keep your stuff looking nice and you keep it well maintained and work hard and do it yourself, you can go a lot further than someone who's dependent on other people to do it for you.
Talking with Brady Bacon, who's going to be at Eagle Raceway this coming weekend for the Rumble in the Bull Ring.
Rumble in the Bull Ring. Brady, one last quick question. I know you guys have rule packages to go by. Knowing that you follow NASCAR, are you going to make sure that all your connecting rods are within 3 grams of each other?
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have quite as technical rules as they do, but they got a lot more money on the line than we do. Sprint cars is one of the forms of racing where things are kind of open and you can do whatever you want. But it's kind of amazing that over the years, little things have changed. But if you look at a car from 1989 and you look at a car from now, the main concept is the same. So sprint car racing is unique that way, and that's what I think makes it one of the best forms of racing in the country. It opens yourself up to ingenuity, and we have a little more freedom than those guys up there in the NASCAR deal have. So we can get a little more creative than they can without getting a slap on the wrist.
Brady Bacon of BradyBaconRacing.com. Catch him this weekend, May 4th, at Eagle Raceway for the Rumble in the Bull Ring. Brady, we greatly appreciate your time. Probably one of our better interviews we've done in a while, and we appreciate you carrying us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We'll be there. We'll actually have a whole merchandise trailer up there for everybody to check out, so they can look at all we have on my website, and then everything will be available at the track to purchase, and we got free stuff, autograph cards and stuff. So just check it all out, and remember to support people that support racing.
Exactly. And looking at your merchandise online, you guys have done a terrific job with the marketing campaign, kind of playing a little bit on your last name and also coming up with some sweet designs. So I think I'll be walking away with the Brady Bacon T-shirt when I get down there to Eagle this weekend.
All right. Hopefully a lot of people do.
We'll make sure to come down and talk to you in the pits, and best of luck to you. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Again, Brady Bacon of BradyBaconRacing.com. Check out all the information online, BradyBaconRacing.com. You can also fan him as like his page, the fan page on Facebook. Great guy, nice guy. And
Dan, just because you're going to buy a Brady Bacon shirt does not give you the excuse now to tell everybody, hey, look at me, I'm hauling the bacon.
I never tell people that. That's horrible. I hate puns. And I hope that's the last one, but turn 4 is just around the corner, and I guarantee you Bud will find a way to squeeze another one in there. We'll be right back to wrap it all up. Turn 4 just around the corner. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Weekly Saturday night racing features the Midwest's best battling at the fastest third-mile track in the Midwest. Gates open at 5:30 with a green flag at 6:30 for IMCA modified, sport compacts, hobby stocks, sport mods, and race saver sprint cars. $10 for adults, $5 for youth 6 to 12 years old, and kids under 6 get in free. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.
This week's Legend of Tomorrow on the front stretch is Trevor Hunt. At just 14 years old, Trevor has well over 100 feature wins in dirt kart racing, 7 Grand National Championships, 2 USAC Championships in Focus Midgets, and much, much more. Despite his success, Trevor knows that education is important, so before heading to the shop, he makes sure all his homework is done. Along with a shot at the big time, Trevor is eyeing a career in engineering as a backup plan. Trevor first fell in love with dirt racing when he watched a biography of Jeff Gordon. After learning that the 4-time NASCAR champion got his starts in karts, Trevor realized he could do the same thing. Just 1 week later, he was turning his first laps and hasn't slowed down since, moving his way through go-karts to USAC and winning all along the way. After moving to a B mod last year and claiming 11 feature wins, Trevor has moved up to A mods this year and already claimed his first feature win and is 5th in points for the USMTS Central Region Championship. Keep your eye on Trevor Hunt. He's this week's Legend of Tomorrow on the front stretch.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Just about ready to wrap up the show. If you're looking for a place to go and enjoy some great food, get to the official watering hole of the front stretch, Quaker Steak and Lube on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs. Get them online at thelube.com/Council Bluffs. You can find them on Facebook. Great weekly specials.
You like the Boom Boom Shrimp.
Oh,
you're in love with the Boom Boom Shrimp.
I've got a meeting there on Monday to discuss some stuff that we're going to be doing later on in the year, and you better believe there'll be some Boom Boom Shrimp.
I mean, go get your Boom Boom Shrimp, go across the street, get your Zoom Zoom on over at Joe's.
Exactly. It'd be a good day for you.
Boom, boom, boom in a Zoom Zoom.
Wow, nice. That was actually pretty good. You heard the LOT with Trevor Hunt. We've been doing
Legends
it all
of
year
Tomorrow.
long. Right, I'm sorry. We call it the LOT for short. The Legends of Tomorrow. It's a little feature we do to try to put a little bit of a spotlight on some of these up-and-coming drivers. If you've got somebody that you want to nominate for the Legend of Tomorrow, email Buddy Ray.
But it's Buddy J, Buddy, letter J, at joeskarting.com. What we want to do is your driver, it doesn't matter what class, but they got to be 18 and younger. And we want to showcase, we talk about a lot of these guys, and you get to hear a lot of the interviews here on the front stretch week in and week out and on our podcast of Slinging Dirt. But nobody really gets to know these young men and women coming up in the cars. I mean, we've had, Tutoff Ava Gropp. She's 6 years old.
That was the funnest one to write.
Oh, she's a doll, too. I'd love to get her in here one of these days on the Slinging Dirt, just let her have fun.
I can't wait to talk to her.
But so we've done 16-year-olds. We've had 6-year-olds on the show, and, you just heard Trevor Hunt, 14, 15 years of age. We want to showcase these guys.
He's done a lot of winning.
Yes.
A lot of winning.
Who are we to shy away from these guys? This is the legend, the future legends of tomorrow, hence the name, and this is the future of our sport.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we started this was, I felt like there was a NASCAR community that wasn't being catered to. And B, when we talked about it, you said we got to talk dirt, and we really want to make sure that these young and up-and-comers are highlighted and that there is some reward to it, because it's tough being a racer.
Have you noticed,
it's incredibly
though,
expensive and it's difficult. So we want to give a spotlight to these guys to help them out in any way we can.
Have you noticed these young drivers that are up and coming? They got good grades in school.
Yeah.
They're in sports. They're in stuff like that. I mean, these are good kids.
Well, there's plenty of statistics out there that show that if a kid comes home from school and sits down on a computer and plays a video game, their grades are lower. But if they're out doing activities, playing basketball, playing baseball, having a race team, that they strive better in sports, or in school and education. So, contact Buddy if you want somebody, if you think there's a good driver out there, the Legend of Tomorrow. And again, the email address?
Buddy, J-B-U-D-D-Y, letter J, at joeskarting.com, and it's karting with a K.
All right. We want to say Eagle Raceway coming up just a few days. We've got the Rumble in the Bull Ring. USAC wingless sprint cars will be there. I believe there'll also be quite a bit of other. Remind me, what other
I believe it's
B-mods?
It's going to be sport mods or B mods, sport mods, race saver sprints, and the USAC cars.
Keeping our fingers crossed that the race is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right now, Saturday, May 4th, looks cloudy, rainy, and 53. So we'll keep you up to date. If you aren't a fan of us on Facebook
yet. Did you just say the word
yet.
rainy?
No, I didn't.
I thought you said cloudy, rainy, and 53.
Nope.
You used the
I
R
didn't
word.
use that word.
I'm going to shoot you after the
use
show.
that. Well, that's not very nice of you. If you want to keep up to date with us, and because obviously the show's only on once a week, and a lot of times it's recorded, become a fan of our Facebook page, and we try to post when tracks have canceled, when they've confirmed, when they've delayed, ticket prices, that kind of stuff. We try to keep up to date with that stuff, so you can become a fan of us on Facebook. Just search The Front Stretch, and then we'll get you taken care of as far as keeping you up to date with the races. So hopefully they'll be able to get the race in this coming Saturday at Eagle Raceway. You can get more information, eagleraceway.com. You can go see Brady Bacon. Great interview, great guy, and a good interview. And I've heard from a couple of people that he was very, very close to getting his break into NASCAR, and it kind of sounded from the interview that he's all right with the opportunity being passed. That he's not really interested in being up there anymore.
A lot of these big-name dirt drivers, they're pretty sold on the fact that they just want to continue to race dirt and not asphalt. And I find that really ironic.
Yeah. It's a whole different animal.
Yep.
Especially when you go up to the NASCAR level and you race ARCA and then the NASCAR sanctioned events. It's a whole different animal, and a lot of times it's an animal that a lot of guys, they just want to race. They don't want to deal with PR and marketing and appearances. They just want to race.
Take them to a racetrack and let them go.
Exactly. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who tuned in today. We thank you for all of your support, and thank you again to Dave, Jim, and Matt for giving us a call and talking to us about any questions they had for dirt racing. We're going to try to do it again. We are recording next Sunday, but we're live for the last 2 Sundays of May, so we're going to do live phone calls again. Get your questions ready, and we'll throw it out to you at 5730590. Thank you to Craig and Gus for manning the board and making sure that we sound as good as they could possibly make us sound. And again, thank you to Brady Bacon for taking his time out of his day and doing an interview with us. Bud, what do you got doing on the rest of the today?
I think I'm going to take my son fishing today. I mean, it's going to be the last time we see 80 degrees for a week, if not longer.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome day. We're going to go Lake Manawa? Or do you guys got a hidden location?
We got a hidden location. Kind of like the Andy Griffith and Opie Taylor spot. Hold his hand, walk down the road.
Now I'm going to be singing that song all day. Quit it. I'm going to get that stuck in my head. Get down to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch, and get yourself some great lunch specials. And they are going to be playing the race, the Eldora race, truck race that's going to be happening on a Wednesday night. So we're going to go down there and watch that in just a couple of months, and we're very excited about that. Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Thank you so much for joining us on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.